Are you looking to buy a Kia e-Soul? Well, if you are, you may want to watch this video till the very end, because in this video, I'm gonna go through some important things to know before buying a car like this. I'm gonna go through the good, the ugly, the bad, and a few things I find brilliant with this Kia e-Soul. Well, that is a very good question, and I don't know if I have any clear answer. It is very short at 4.2 meters long. It's about 5 centimeters shorter than something like a Volkswagen ID3. But at 1.6 meters tall, it is taller than a Volkswagen ID3. It's actually only a few centimeters shy of a Volvo XC40. And with a 15 centimeter ground clearance, that is more than you get in a Mercedes-Benz EQC. But it is 4 centimeters less than something you get in a Peugeot E2008. So this is all very confusing because it's short, but it is tall, and then you have some ground clearance, and then you have this black cladding here on this side and also this aluminum trim. So have they tried to make it a bit more off-roady? Is it a hatchback? Is it a crossover? Is it an SUV, or is it a minivan? Well, I think it is somewhere in between. It's something completely different to everything else, and it's just what it is. It is a Kia Soul. Since its first generation, I've actually been a huge fan of the Kia Soul. And this second generation takes a cool styling, a cool design to the next level. They've refined it and made it a bit more grown up, but it's still unmistakably a Kia Soul with its boxy and upright shape. I really do like the way this car looks. This with this cool red paint color and the contrast roof, and also these, aluminum roof rails, makes it just stand out, and I think it actually looks quite premium. This only has actually 17-inch wheels, which in today's world is a bit small, but they work on this car because this isn't the biggest car. It's actually quite small at only 4.2 meters long. And then you have the front end that a lot of people have been saying looks like a Range Rover. And I do agree. It looks a bit like a modern Range Rover Sport with its cool, LED strips here, its slim headlight design. But well, that is no bad thing because Range Rovers are one of the best looking cars in my opinion. And this looking like a Range Rover is no bad thing at all. Once you step inside, it is a whole different story, unfortunately. You wouldn't expect it to look or feel anything like a Range Rover, of course, at this price point, but it's just so bland in here compared to the exterior. And it is so dark. Everything is black. You have this glossy black plastic, just makes everything black. Just a bit of, aluminum trim here and there. Some light colored materials would do wonders for this interior. I find the dashboard very boring and uninspiring, and it has this goofy design here around the vents. Yeah, it just looks weird. I think Kia and Hyundai, which is its sister company, do interiors much better than this in their other models. And what happened? This cool exterior and then this boring interior. Materials are fine enough. I mean, it's probably better than in the ID3 from Volkswagen, but when you start comparing it to something like a Peugeot E2008, yeah, it really comes short both in design and in material quality. But it is very spacious in here. It is super roomy here in the front cabin. I have loads of space. The seat is very comfortable. Tons of adjustability. I've been driving this car for, I don't know, like 2,500 kilometers in the past week, and I find it very, very comfortable to ride, and it's super spacious in here. So you have this wireless charging pad here. You have ton of, outlets. You have USB-A, you have a other charging outlet here. You have a 12 volt, you have these large cup holders. You also have a large storage bin here, practical bins. You also have this steering wheel, which feels nice in the hand. So, functionality wise, this interior is superb. I really do like it, but it's just a bit boring and a bit dark in here. This is one of the best riding small cars I have ever driven. The suspension tuning, the way it is set up, is very comfortable. Yes, it is set up quite soft, but the ride is wonderful. As I said, this is the best riding small car I have driven probably ever. But even though it is soft, it never feels, unyieldy or rolls about in the corners because it is quite light for being an EV. A touch below 1800 kilos. It still feels, athletic enough in the corners. Yes, the steering is light, you don't have any feel. You have a sport mode you can put it into, but I just drive in normal eco mode, don't bother with that. But yeah, the steering is precise, you don't have a lot of feel, it is light, making it very easy to drive. It really fits the character of this car where they have, just focused on the comfort aspect. And the comfort aspect, this car does very well. Where it does fall a bit short when it comes to, driving is in the noise department. So wind noise is par for the course. I would put it at the same, noise levels as the ID3 and the Peugeot E2008. It might be, a bit more noisy when it comes to wind noise, but tire noise, this car doesn't, match up. Those two cars are much quieter, especially at motorway speeds. This is closer to a Tesla Model 3, though I don't think it has as much road noise as a Tesla Model 3. This car in particular has the 64 kilowatt hour battery pack, meaning it packs a 204 horsepower electric motor on the front axle. And 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, guys, is 7.6 seconds, which at normal speeds feels nippy, it feels quick, it's more than enough. I mean, everything below motorway speeds, this car is probably quick enough for most people. According to the WLTP, this car can go 452 kilometers on a single charge. But in the real world, in wintertime, with the conditions we have had the past week, I have seen somewhere in the ballpark of 240 to 350 kilometers. Link to all of my range tests in the description box down below if you want to see that in detail. But still, 240 to 350 in the real world under these conditions isn't that bad, especially considering this car has a 64 kilowatt hour battery pack, this being the car with the bigger battery pack. Considering how it sits and comparing it to its competitors, the range, even though only 240 to 350 in the wintertime, is quite impressive. And efficiency is only second to the Tesla Model 3 2021 model equipped with a heat pump, which is basically the most efficient EV out there on the market. So considering the shape of this car, that is quite impressive. But a little less impressive is its charging speed, because it has a peak speed of 77 kilowatts, which is fine. But its average speed from 10 to 80% state of charge is 59 kilowatts. Or 51 minutes, which isn't that great. I mean, 77 kilowatts isn't great in 2021, while more and more competitors are, charging at 100 kilowatts or plus. So 51 minutes is about 17 minutes longer than the ID3 with the 58 kilowatt hour battery pack, though that being a smaller battery pack, giving that car a little bit less range. It's not too far off this car, but at jet charging speed, yeah, it's much quicker than this. This car comes with adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, and auto steer as standard across all trims. That is impressive, and the auto steer is actually very good, works very nice. I have no complaints at all. It's actually one of the best I have used lately. My only complaint is that the icon for it being active is a bit small sometimes, but yeah, that is basically my own complaint. Otherwise, it's very nice to use. But also, the controls here for the adaptive cruise control isn't the best. I mean, the whole button layout on the steering wheel is a bit confusing and not the best in my opinion. So on the right side here is where you control the adaptive cruise control, and you also control the trip computer and board computer. So this is your plus and minus on your speed, and then you activate cruise control up here, and then you cancel it here, and then here is your distance. But in the middle here, you toggle up and down the screens on the board computer, and then on the left corner here, you change in between the different modes. So yeah, that is all a bit confusing. I wish they could have separated it better, because I don't think the functionality is the best. And I often find myself looking down at the buttons to read what they actually do. It's a bit better here on the left side, but yeah, not my favorite button layout, but well, it is standard with all this kit, so I'm not complaining. But then you have the digital driver's display, which is partly LCD and the rest is just a digital readout. You can see here you have some borders here, these black borders. You can see on the right and left side of each of those borders the screen stops. And I also find this a bit weird. Is it really that more expensive to make this full screen? I also couldn't find any information about how big it is, but I don't know, maybe like 7 inches, 8 inches? 8 inches, I would guesstimate 8 inches. But on the left side, you have, you know, nice readability with your range, and on the right side, you have your speedometer. Though you have that bar on the right side, I think it's like a manual or an analog speed readout, but with digital increments of bars jumping up and down. It's just a bit weird. It's just a bit weird. I'm not a huge fan of the layout. I mean, you have a lot of information here. The information isn't that bad, but I'm not a huge fan of the layout and functionality and the colors and the fonts. And also, you know, the screen isn't the highest resolution, and the contrasts could be better. I mean, jumping out of something like the Volkswagen ID3, that screen is so much nicer and premium looking. But it gets the job done, though I think it is a bit cluttered and not a huge fan of the graphics. And then you have the central display here, which is 10.25 inch, and that comes standard with the active model and upwards, so active and exclusive. The Classic gets a smaller screen, and it is fine. Again, you know, the graphics, the contrast, the resolution isn't the best. I mean, black levels are non-existent almost, so a lot of competitors do screens better, in my opinion, than this car. But it does have some redeeming features, like, you know, you have a volume knob here, which is very nice, and you also have a tuning button or a tuning knob, and then you have all of these hard buttons, which is nice. But how do you get to your home screen? There isn't a button for your home screen. Well, you can go to nav, and then you can press your home screen there. So that's a bit confusing. And then you get here, and this is your home screen. A clock, and then you have some darked out information there about navigation, but you really don't have it. And then you have user profile settings here. It's just a bit weird, but if you toggle to or swipe to the left, then you have your home screen icon. So why isn't this your home screen? Why is this your home screen? That doesn't make any sense at all. But yeah, otherwise, you know, usability is fine. It's not the best. It's not always easy to find all the things here, though you have your hard buttons, which is nice. So jumping into map, and you can see it's not the quickest. It is fine. And you could also see, and then to go back home, that's weird. You have to do 2 button presses, and then you have to, there. Or you can maybe just press setup. Okay, no. That's not the same screen. Setup is setup. So yeah, that's, you know, functionality is a bit weird. Okay, there, home. So you see this car has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but I have actually been using the map, the navigation system, the past week, and it does work fine. It's not the best, but it does get the job done, and better than many other competitors actually. But the navigation, and also here, before I show you guys the navigation, this is very nice. So you can collapse that, or you can expand it if you want, so you can have your map in full screen. But I find the real estate big enough, you know, in opposition to something like the PSA touchscreens, which is the same size. They have huge real estate on each side of the map with the temperature. Here you have, thankfully, analog or hard buttons, so you have your own controls for the HVAC, and that is very, very welcome. Thank you so much, Kia. But yeah, so you have a state of charge readout here and also your range. So that is very, very nice. And you can also search for stations. So that is very practical. A lot of cars could learn from Kia because that is useful information to have either in the digital gauge cluster or here on the screen. So I do like that a lot. But you know, the navigation system isn't perfect. So if you want to, you know, enter a destination, so you can type Oslo, for example, it's quick enough. And then you can search. Let's go ahead and find Oslo. Okay, Oslo. And then you press once. And then you press twice. No, sorry, twice. And then you start guidance. So why do you have to press 3 times? 3 times to start your navigation. But yeah, so otherwise than that, I mean, it's not the best tech. It is okay, but I mean, it's subpar compared to the best competition out there, but it is fine. This being the exclusive, it also comes with a head-up display, the type that pops out of the dashboard and projects onto a piece of glass. And in my opinion, those are often better than the types that project onto the windshield actually, because they're often much more legible and much more clear and offer, you know, bigger fonts and just work better in my opinion. But as most head-up displays, in my opinion, the information up on the head-up display is often redundant, and you often get, you know, a better layout in the digital gauge cluster. So often I don't find myself, you know, using them because I can get much more information, much more clear, and much better laid out in the digital gauge cluster. Often, you know, the information up here is it's just redundant and it's not as easy to use. So in this car, like many cars, that is also the case. So I just actually turn it off. I haven't been using the head-up display. And, you know, in my opinion, the PSA group do head-up displays very good because what they do is they split the information. So you have some information up top and then you have some information down below. So often you have your primary information, your speed, your adaptive cruise, your lane keep, and then you have your secondary information down here. And in my opinion, that is the way to do it because you can split the information and everything is just so clear and nicely laid out using the real estate better. The Kia e-Soul comes with 2 different battery packs and in 3 different trim levels. So you have the base, which is the classic, and then you have the active, and then you have the top of the line exclusive with a sunroof. If you live in a place with cold weather, I would recommend getting the active because it gets a heat pump as standard, and the heat pump will give you increased efficiency and longer range in wintertime, so that is a no-brainer. The active also gets a power driver seat with lumbar support. It also gives you the 10.25-inch infotainment system with navigation. You also get the Harman Kardon sound system, which sounds good. And you also get the Uvo Connect app, so you can precondition the car, you can control vehicle functions. You could go to the exclusive, then you would get, you know, heated rear seat, head-up display, leather seats, and ventilated front seats. But I would save that money and rather spend that money towards the bigger battery pack. So the standard battery pack is the 39 kilowatt hour with 276 kilometers of WLTP range. The bigger with the 64 kilowatt hour battery pack gives you 452 kilometers of WLTP range. So an active with metallic paint delivered would cost you about 393,000 kroners, and for that price, that is very competitive. In my week with the Kia e-Soul, I have actually grown very fond of this car, and that is because it does the basics very well. So first off, 452 kilometers of WLTP range from a 64 kilowatt hour battery pack. That is impressive efficiency and range from a car of this shape. And that is plenty for most people. It has also a wonderful ride, and I mean, this is one of the best riding small cars, if not the best riding small car I have ever driven. It's not the most sportiest, but it is fun enough to drive. I mean, it feels very positive. 204 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.6 seconds is plenty quick for most people. And it also has the extra ground clearance, meaning you don't have to worry about, you know, bottoming out or speed bumps or driveways. It's just very carefree. I mean, it's just so easy to drive and live with this car. And then you have the exterior styling, which in my opinion is, I mean, this is a beautiful car. I'm gonna say it. It looks like a miniature Range Rover. Yes, I said it. But not everything is great with the e-Soul. So first off, you have its subpar tech. I mean, the screens are fine and okay, but the competitors do this better. There are competitors with much better tech inside, and it's starting to feel a bit old and dated. And it might be new. I don't know how new this version of Evo is. Let me know in the comments down below if you do know, but I'm not too impressed by the tech. It's fine enough, and at this price point, I'm not complaining, but I have to mention it. And then you have the interior, which is so dark, so dreary, and so boring, especially compared to the exterior. It's like two different teams designed the interior and exterior, and they communicated via telegram from opposite sides of the world. It doesn't compute in my opinion. I just don't understand what happened here. And then you have slowish charging. I mean, 77 kilowatts isn't the fastest in 2021. It just isn't. But as a package at this price point, this is hard to beat. I mean, if you want a small crossover hatchback SUV type of car with this range, there aren't that many competitors. Every other car is bigger or has much less range. So guys, if you are looking for a small car like this with the best range, I would highly consider you guys to take a look at the Kia e-Soul because it impresses me. It's not perfect, but what it does good, it really does good. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always guys, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.